also made a few friends. For the first timers to a meeting like this, it's important that you network and talk to anybody. It's one big family we have here. And I can assure you, you see the same faces at the next ICAO meeting, be it in Accra or in Washington, D.C., the same people. So better come on board and make a few friends. Talk to somebody you've never talked to during the breaks, and it will improve our networking and coordination and collaboration. So we will continue with sub-item 6.13. And this third sub-item deals with the proposed new Global Aviation Safety Oversight System called GASOS. ICAO is very famous for abbreviations, and very soon the PANS ABC will have Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3. It never ceases to amaze me in the way we are quick to coin abbreviations. Now, the second batch of working papers will address working papers in sub-item 6.13, which relate to the GASOS, as I indicated. So I'll now invite the Secretariat to present working paper 17 on the Global Aviation Safety Oversight System, GASOS. Then I'll ask states and international organizations to present other papers in the batch. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, all. Working Paper 17 presents a proposal for the establishment of a global aviation safety oversight system in response to the growing aviation safety oversight challenges experienced globally. The establishment of GASOS is proposed within the framework of the Global Aviation Safety Plan. The paper was developed taking into consideration three premises. First, despite many initiatives developed over the years by ICAO contracting states, some are still experiencing difficulties in establishing capacity for effective safety oversight. Second, one of the most recurrent strategies by states is to establish and implement regional cooperation initiatives, including RSOs. Third, many of those initiatives or organizations have been established, but we do not have a system to assess how well such organizations are currently supporting states' oversight activities. Based on the aforementioned premises, GASOS has been designed as a voluntary and standardized assessment and recognition mechanism for safety oversight organizations, including state civil aviation authorities and regional state-based mechanisms with a strong emphasis on regional safety oversight organizations. The main objective of GASOS is to enable and strengthen the state safety oversight capabilities by providing states with a range of solutions for the delegation of safety oversight functions or tasks to recognize competent safety oversight organizations. This will be first achieved through a voluntary and standardized competency assessment of RSOs to allow their members to fully take advantage of GASOS benefits. The expected benefits from the establishment and implementation of GASOS are explained in paragraph 2.5. The background of GASOS includes the recommendation 3.1 of the Second High-Level Safety Conference, as well as Assembly Resolution 839-14. The GASOS concept was introduced at the RSOO Forum for Global Aviation that took place in Swaziland in March 2017, supporting the development of GASOS as part of the ICAO Global Strategy and Action Plan for improving the RSOs. GASOS has also been presented at different fora, including DG-level meetings, meetings of regional aviation safety groups, including the SANIS event in December 2017, where further development was encouraged. The work currently undertaken by ICAO in planning and developing GASOS include a feasibility study, CONOPS, an implementation plan and associated business case, along with pilot tests of the assessment mechanism performed in the third quarter of 2018 and expect to have more in the first half of 2019. The conclusion at paragraph 4 contains the recommendation, which, if approved at this conference, it will be presented to the ICAO Council for consideration prior to the 40th session of the Assembly for endorsement. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Secretariat, for introducing the GASOS and its numerous benefits. I'll now call on Australia to present WP 78. The paper is also co-sponsored by New Zealand and Singapore. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to present Working Paper 78. Australia supports the continued development of the GASOS concept and recognises GASOS has the potential to deliver significant benefits such as improved safety, efficiency and capacity in the performance of the safety regulatory oversight functions. However, Australia and a number of other states, including New Zealand and Singapore, have identified three important matters to strengthen the GASOS concept prior to it being considered by the 40th Assembly. These are around the ideas of legal liability and transfer of risk and cost-benefit analysis. We think that this work needs to be done to ensure that the GASOS concept can be applied to all regions across the globe to ensure that those benefits are equally felt and to ensure that the system stands up to the rigours needed in such an important area. Thank you.
Thank you, Australia. I'll invite the United States to present WP 124.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to present this paper on behalf of the United States. As we seek ways to continuously improve aviation safety, a challenge compounded by the significant growth forecasted in the future air transportation system, it is important that ICAO and states find opportunities and mechanisms that will definitely increase and sustain safety oversight capabilities. As a means of doing so, ICAO has proposed the Global Aviation Safety Oversight System, or GASOS, to improve the effectiveness of regional safety oversight organizations. The United States supports the concept of GASOS as well as the need to assist states in improving and strengthening safety oversight responsibilities. The United States also supports Working Paper 78 presented by Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore. GASOS has the potential to provide a number of benefits to states, as it will allow states to delegate certain functions to recognized service providers. However, the potential for negative consequences also exists, and a means of developing safeguards is a priority before such program could be effectively implemented. The implementation and continuous monitoring of GASOS will require significant resources, both for ICAO in the recognition of the provider and for the state or entity that would be receiving the support. It is important that the program provide a clearly delineated business case which focuses heavily on the specific safety benefits to be gained. There are also a number of existing ICAO initiatives as well as resources developed by states or regional organizations that could assist states in improving their safety oversight capabilities. These tools and programs should align to support and promote GASOS to further enhance the effectiveness of the program by targeting the scope to where there is greatest need. In addition, the GASOS program should not undermine ongoing efforts to provide technical assistance. This may prevent states with the capability and resources to provide valuable technical assistance from being recognized as GASOS providers. Therefore, the United States recommends that GASOS study group should focus on the issues addressed in Working Paper 124 and that membership be expanded to a diverse set of stakeholders before the GASOS program is considered ready ready for consideration by the 40th Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to present this paper on behalf of the United States.
Thank you, United States. I'll now call on Bolivia to present Working Paper 188, and this paper is supported by the South American states. Bolivia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning to everyone. Bolivia is happy to present this working paper referring to GASOS, the Global Aviation Safety Oversight System, and it's supported by 13 member states from South America. In response to the growing global aviation safety oversight challenges, ICAO is undertaking the establishment and implementation of GASOS. To this end, a working group was established with the purpose of providing ICAO, its member states, and associated organizations and regional safety oversight organizations with sufficient information to enable decisions to be made regarding which GASOS are possible, beneficial, and valuable. So this note presents the experience of Bolivia within this working group by a member state of the South American region, the SAM region. The study examined the proposal to establish GASOS as the best possible option to provide worldwide effective and cost-effective safety oversight. So the conclusions then is that most of the SAM states have had to overcome major challenges related to the lack of human and financial resources. This means that the SRV SOP is on track to exploit its full potential as a cost-effective supplier of safety oversight. That's the Regional Safety Oversight Cooperation Organization. And this same organization has contributed to the improvement of safety oversight levels for more than 15 years. It's contributed greatly to the development of harmonized or common aviation requirements, inspectors' manuals and other guidance materials, and inspector training. And the SRV SOP excels in the provision of Level 1 services. But more and more member states are benefiting from the regional offices which have been recognized by ICAO. The industry will benefit from the efficiencies related to a more harmonized implementation of ICAO standards and best practices and a reduction in the duplication of oversight activities in the South American region. GASOS would allow the strengthening of the safety oversight capacity of the states of the South American region, providing the states with a range of solutions for the delegation of functions or safety oversight activities to safety oversight organizations, SOOs, which are competent and recognized. So having said all of this, we are inviting the conference, first of all, to take note of this working paper, then B, to support the implementation of GASOS as a viable solution for the improvement of global safety, and request ICAO to present this initiative to the 40th Assembly for endorsement. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Bolivia. The last paper in this batch is from the 54 contracting African states, members of the African Civil Aviation Commission. Which state is presenting on behalf of AFCAC, member states? South Africa, you have the floor.
Chair, thank you. Chair, while Africa supports the general idea of GASOS, the principle of voluntary standardization assessment and recognition mechanism, safety concept from the GASOS paper, may be a subject of misinterpretation if this aspect is charged through the Council for endorsement without proper control mechanism to stop commercialization of safety oversight. In line with a Zuluan declaration on regional safety oversight meeting that was held in Swaziland, African states acknowledge slow progress in implementation of critical element and SAPs, the need of global strategy and action plan for improvement of a regional safety oversight organization, the establishment of a global system for the improvement for provision of safety oversight. The ministerial declaration in Swaziland did expressly mention SOOs by definition may include other international organizations. The emphasis was rather on state and RSOO, as clarified by ministerial declaration. ICAO recognized safety oversight providers that may include Civil Aviation Authority of the state that provide assistance to another state and to RSO that carries out safety tasks and functions. AFCAC member states, however, believe that the adoption of GASOS principle is immature at this point, as more work still needs to be done to ensure that GASOS' overall objectives are met without necessarily commercializing safety oversight and thereby undermining and the established RSOO. The current understanding is that the intent of GASOS is to establish a network of recognized safety oversight organizations to assist in strengthening the safety oversight capability. This recognized safety oversight organization may include commercial entities, and this is contrary to what was presented to the African minister in Swaziland and is tantamount to countries surrendering their sovereignty to commercialization entities. The intent of the ministerial declaration was for the improvement and strengthening of RSOO through activities to be undertaken by ICAO. The 5 below listed criteria which will be used to evaluate and conduct the gap analysis to strengthen and improve the RSO, which has not been done, the relevance, the effectiveness, efficiency, sustainability, and adaptability. It is Africa's considered position that the recommendation and request ICAO to present GASOS for endorsement at the 40th Assembly is premature, as more work still needs to be done to preclude misinterpretation and refocus of strengthening of the RSOO. Chair, in conclusion, there is a need to complete the gap analysis to strengthen and improve the current RSOO, to explore alternative safety oversight model to resolve the current inefficiencies and address the future challenges. We also urge the GASOS study group to continue to be utilized to ensure access to expertise needed to improve the program and to work to address political, administrative, legal, and safety-related aspects which may be affected by this approach before implementation may be considered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, South Africa. And I think, yeah, those are the papers in this batch. I'll now invite the Secretariat to comment on the papers and clarify issues. Secretariat? All right. I'll invite the Deputy Director for Safety Management, Mr. Katalin Radu, to take the floor.
In fact, I was just wanting to hear first what are your reaction on the paper presented, and after that we will intervene with specific details to your comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments on the Secretariat paper and the other papers before Secretariat comes in? Okay, the screen is filling so quickly. Mexico was first, so Mexico, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning to everyone. I would like to ask whether I can make a general comment on all of the working papers, or do I just need to refer to the Secretariat's working paper? Can you clarify?
You can comment on all the papers, Secretariat and the others presented by US, AFCAC, Bolivia, etc., Australia. You can comment on all.
Muy bien. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Chairman. Generally speaking, Mexico is happy to see the working papers 17, 78, 124, 188, and 224. We believe that this is an extremely important subject, and we all need to pay close attention to this. The new GASOS, which is being proposed, is a subject which we believe is one that needs to continue. And as the Secretariat said in WP 17 and in the other working papers, and I'd like to recognize the other states who've contributed for their work, But, for example, in the Australian, New Zealand and Singapore working papers, one that we agree with, we need to continue to work more on the legal aspects, the governance aspects, and also the profitability or the business case side. So we need to work more on that. There is another aspect where we'd like to put forward a safeguard. We don't want to have the participation of commercial entities when the receiving state has to actually pay for the project. Over and above those types of cases, we don't see any problems with this approach. Then finally, on what is requested in WP 17 and also 188 from Bolivia, which we support as Mexico, we support both of these working papers. But when we're talking about the conclusions and we're saying that it's going to be presented to the Assembly for its endorsement or its approval, could it be changed and say for its consideration rather than endorsement? Because the working papers have shown that there's still some work that needs to be done in depth on this. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mexico. Portugal, you have the floor.
Obrigado, Sr. Presidente.
Thank you, Chairman.
Endorsed the establishment of the Global Aviation Safety Oversight System, GASOS, as provided in ICAO's Working Paper 17. For all of us, the global safety of air navigation is the top priority, and we agree that the GASOS' main objective to implement globally an enhanced safety oversight system. This is needed to tackle existing insufficient development of state safety oversight capabilities and also to respond to the emerging challenges from the constant evolution of the aviation industry. We recognize that there are issues that will have to be solved as mentioned in various working papers presented. They should be addressed as recognized in the proposed recommendation A by the ongoing work in the relevant ICAO working group. Coming from a region where the strong regional cooperation in aviation safety has shown its great potential and success, we want to reinforce ICAO's efforts for the enhancement and the recognition of regional safety oversight organizations, not only in GASOS, but also in all ICAO's activities. GASOS will provide states reliable and flexible alternatives to develop their safety oversight capacity. But we also recognize the opportunities GASOS could provide for the global aviation industry through more harmonized, efficient, and predictable safety oversight process. We believe GASOS should, in the first place, consider regional safety oversights and state authorities as the safety oversight organizations. We acknowledge the concerns of Australia and the United States, and we acknowledge that further work on the legal and governance aspects of GASOS work is required. The ongoing work of ICAO should be taken into account, as already proposed in Working Paper 17. We also fully support Working Paper 188 presented by Bolivia. Considering this, we propose that GASOS be presented for endorsement at the Assembly, 40th Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Portugal. The next request is from Colombia. Colombia, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chairman. Colombia supports the GASOS system, and in particular, Working Paper 1778 on 124 and also 188. We would like to thank ICAO and the member states for the work that they've done on this. It's vital for the sustainability of GASOS to continue with the implementation of this so that it can be more effective and we can have more effective safety oversight. We need to look at the legal and the administrative and the financial ramifications. And there's also a risk that if a member state is carrying out safety oversight tasks, it may not be able to correct all of those deficiencies. And we want the objectives to be met. Colombia recognises the comments that have been made by the member states here, in particular those made by Australia, New Zealand and Singapore and the US. And in particular, we'd like to thank Bolivia for the work that it's been doing, which has flown into Working Paper 188. We also have to say that the Executive Committee of LACAC at its last meeting agreed to support this working paper, taking into account of the fact that the SRV-SOP, the Regional Safety Oversight System, has established a written agreement between the LACAC and ICAO. And the Caribbean states are also part of the this LACAC agreement. So Colombia would like to very much support the recommendation for this working paper to be put to the Assembly for its consideration, as was suggested by Mexico. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colombia. Ayata, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. IATA supports further development of GASOS concept and will continue to collaborate through the GASOS steering group. However, we believe there are aspects that require further assessment. Some of these are reflected in Working Paper 78 from Australia. It is important to ensure, prior to implementation, that the final product is sustainable and cost-effective. Therefore, we support Working Paper 78 and 17. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayata. United Arab Emirates, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The United Arab Emirates supports the international air transport system is of the highest priority, and continuous improvement of safety is dependent on the stakeholders to collaborate and cooperate effectively. Definitely, indeed, GASOS have the potential to direct states in need in strengthening the safety oversight system. In addition to the suggested comments provided in Working Paper 78 by Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore, I would like to suggest the following to the group that will conduct the study. That the study group is consisted from members covering all regions, as the challenges will differ from a region to another region. Careful consideration should be provided to the competency, the experience, and the exposure of the experts who will be involved in the future work of GASOS once it becomes alive. The study needs to take careful consideration of the legal framework of states' responsibilities and final accountability when delegating part of their oversight to a third party. Finally, the study should look into the relationship between the future GASOS and the current ongoing efforts with existing regional safety oversight organizations, namely RSOOs, to avoid duplication of efforts and unnecessarily additional costs. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ayata. Oh, sorry, United Arab Emirates, sorry. We now have Nigeria to take the floor. Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nigeria wishes to support Working Paper 224 presented by AFCAC, Working Paper 124 by USA, and the recommendations contained therein. GASOS study group should continue to work with the Secretariat to address the political, administrative, legal, and safety-related aspects and ensure that the outcomes are acceptable to states before the program is formally adopted. It is important to ensure alignment of GASOS with other programs which are for similar purposes, such as the RSOs, ICAO, USOAP CMA, to ensure effective utilization of resources, especially bearing in mind Assembly Resolution A39-14, which requires that states should have access to practical and affordable options in the area of safety oversight. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigeria. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Noting other papers and comments from countries, Australia recommends that this conference supports existing efforts being undertaken to assist regions and states improve and strengthen their safety oversight responsibilities. In terms of future initiatives in this regard, that the conference supports the Global Aviation Safety Oversight System concept, GASOS, and that the 40th ICAO Assembly consider the progression of the GASOS concept following the examination of the range of issues that have been highlighted today by an expanded and diverse stakeholder GASOS study group. And those items include the existing ICAO regional and state safety oversight initiatives, as well as resources developed by states or regional organisations that assist states in improving their safety oversight capabilities, the legal liability and risk, governance and cost benefits analysis issues with the GASOS concept raised in Working Paper 78, the safeguarding, resourcing, business case and scope issues with the GASOS concept raised in Working Paper 124, and the political, administrative, legal and safety-related issues with the GASOS concept raised in Working Paper 224. Thank you.
Thank you, Australia. I now invite Singapore to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. GASOS is a good concept. It has the potential to address the safety oversight challenges that states face today. Singapore therefore supports the GASOS concept. We recognize the significant effort that has been put into developing the GASOS concept and the work that will continue. It is important that this work addresses the issues raised in Working Papers 78 and 124. Singapore strongly encourages ICAO and the GASOS study group to continue to fully develop the GASOS concept before it can be considered for endorsement at the next assembly. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Singapore. Senegal, you have the floor. Is it point?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Chair. Senegal supports Working Paper 124 presented by the United States, but also strongly supports WP 224 prepared by AFCAC on behalf of the 54 states. And there are issues that require being clarified, human resources, and also the legal aspects of the implementation of GASOS, without forgetting about the safety aspects. And speaking also about institutional recognition. So we support strongly the AFCAC 224 paper, and that the GASOS study group should continue following the instruction as indicated in 224, and not to forget that the commercialization should be completely eliminated from GASOS. All of the efforts made by the states and some of the states, but we do see great improvement on the part of the African states, for instance. Technical assistance as well has proved itself to be effective in the framework of improving the efficiency and effectiveness. Also, in the framework of GASOS, I would like to say that I support, once again, Working Paper 224, as the work must continue, and it must mature before being presented to the Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Singapore. I realize that some of the microphones are not working, and a number of the indicators are up, like Guinea, Sudan, several states, Georgia. And could the technicians please have a look? But meanwhile, I'll take note of them manually, then it will get to you 10. But the next will be South Africa. So South Africa, you get ready. So let me see, yes, Kenya, I can see Kenya. Then, which country is that? Rwanda, Mali, Indonesia, Algeria, Bangladesh, Georgia, Cuba, Guinea, Jordan. Oh, that's a tall order. I need to go for an eye test. Yeah, because I'm struggling now. New Zealand, at least I can see New Zealand. Uganda, it looks like Nicholas has better eyesight than me.
No, I have better glasses.
Better glasses, okay. Uganda, AXA, the Niger. Oof. So difficult at the back. Thailand. South Africa. No, not all Africa. Spain. Yeah, Victor, I can see you. I hope the technician is working on United Kingdom. Yeah, UK, your name is up already. Yeah. Then, is that the country I've mixed? Zambia. Venezuela. Germany. I have Sudan already. Tanzania. Is that Council? Yeah. All right, we have a tall order. Wow. Italy. I'm sure the technician will solve the problem. South Africa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Don't you think there's a need to call the IT, because I think it's more of a cyber? Is it this not related to cyber?
We invited the IT to be checking. Meanwhile, for efficiency, we'll continue the discussions.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chair. And thanks for the interventions that have gone through. I would also want to highlight the intervention from Singapore with regards to the study group to continue to do their work. Working paper 78, under number 4, there's a word that calls to develop. And in many interventions that have been made, the word study has been put into place. So it means it is work that is supposed to be done. In working paper 224, it means ICAO to complete. It means it is a process that needs to still to continue. Working paper 17 by the Secretariat. Should I wait for you? Working paper 17 by the Secretariat. And if you look at 4.1A and B, it literally talks about it's an ongoing work. Request ICAO to continue to develop. And when you go to B, request ICAO to develop appropriate guidance. So it is a process. It is a study that needs to be undertaken. Now, in the same paper contradicts itself. Under D, request ICAO to present the GASOS for endorsement. How do you endorse a half-baked cake? Because this cake is not cooked yet. So how do you present it? In the same paper, A and B, it's very good. It addresses what the majority of intervention says. to develop, to study. Now here comes D with endorsement. Where does this D come from? So work has to be done. So let's bake this cake and cook it and present it when it is fully cooked, not endorse it now. Thank you.
Thank you, South Africa. Just to let you know, we have several requests, and I have at least 12, 14 countries on the screen. And some of these countries were those who raised their flags. So you need to be very patient. It will get to you 10. I had Spain first, but they've gone off. Spain, you still want to have the floor? Spain, you have the floor.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. And good morning to everyone from the Spanish delegation, and thank you for giving us the floor on this matter. We agree with all that's been said. And we also agree with the working paper as presented, and thank you for the work that's been done so far. We also agree that GASOS can be a very useful instrument when it comes to safety oversight. We agree with what's been said by Mexico, Portugal, Colombia, and others, Australia. But we're also sensitive to the comments that have been made by AFCAC in document 224, and also what we've heard from South Africa and Nigeria on this. There's a good number of subjects that need to be clarified, and the Secretariat has recognised this, and it's also been recognised in the various comments made this morning. And it's important to get this clarification soon. Namely, how should the study group be set up? We believe that this study group has to deepen its understanding of this matter. And what I can say is that within ICAO, we have tried to take a wise approach, namely with a step-by-step approach. That's the wise way to do things. If we look back on our experience on launching USOAP, we took a first step, and then we went on to the second and the third and the fourth step. And now we have an up and running USOAP system which is very solid and robust and is still being improved upon. So we understand that with GASOS we need to take the same methodology, a step-by-step approach. And obviously one of these steps is to deal with the first things first. The first priority needs to come first, namely the question of the regional safety oversight organizations. This needs to be the top priority, and it needs to be dealt with in this step-by-step approach. And with this same approach, we need to come to the assembly. And this assembly is taking place within a year. And there will be contributions to clarify the different aspects that have been mentioned by Australia and the United States. And when this is more or less clarified, then the Assembly will need to be informed on these subjects. So we're faced with a dichotomy. We've got two concepts as to what should be presented to the Assembly for its consideration for information or for endorsement and approval. At the end of the day, I think it really will depend. It will depend on the stage of maturity of the study that will take place before the Assembly. But without a doubt, the Assembly needs to be informed about this subject. Therefore, Chairman, we need to follow down this path. We need to continue to improve the system and clarify the subjects that have been raised by Australia and the US. But we also have to ensure that we're strengthening the regional safety oversight organizations and inform the Assembly about the results obtained. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Spain. You all have your turn to contribute, but just be patient. It's a very long list. Japan is next. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, everyone. Basically, Japan will support GASOS concept, provided that GASOS is voluntary structure. But consideration should be given from AFCAC states working paper 224. GASOS should not be commercialization. So many concerns, many suggestions, and many ideas on this floor. So clarification and study and promotion should be needed. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Japan. Cuba, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Chairman. Cuba supports the GASOS concept in the WP17 from the Secretariat to create an oversight system which can evaluate in a voluntary and standardized way the competences of the RSOOs and the member states where they delegate certain safety functions to GASOS. In all languages, we need to develop adequate guidance material so that we can have better implementation. And if we want a better implementation, we need to continue to study this concept. Cuba also supports the concerns expressed by Australia. They need to be considered and they need to be studied in ICAO, as expressed in Working Paper 78. So we also support 124 and 188 and 224. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Cuba. We'll consider a few more papers before we break for lunch. This is the order from my screen. We have Canada, Bangladesh, Niger, New Zealand, United Kingdom, Rwanda, Georgia, Venezuela, United Republic of Tanzania, Germany, and many more. But let's start with these and see if we can finish before we go for lunch. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to all. Canada supports the GASOS concept and supports moving forward with the initiative, including ICAO's planned work to resolve the outstanding implementation details that we've mentioned earlier, and the ongoing work by the GASOS study group. Additionally, Canada was the first state to go through a trial state oversight organization assessment, and we found this process to be rigorous, thorough, and a good measure of a state's capability to perform oversight activities effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to all. Bangladesh fully supports the Working Paper 17 presented by Secretariat, Working Paper 78 presented by Australia, Singapore, and New Zealand to enhance the safety oversight capabilities. Also, Bangladesh support the Working Paper 124 presented by United States about the GASOS program to ensure the cost-effective and efficient safety oversight system to meet the objective of GASOS. Bangladesh also support the Singapore invention and comments that a study group should continue to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Bangladesh. Niger, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Niger strongly supports 224 from AFCAC. We believe this paper strengthens the RSOOs and not other structures. And so also we support 78 presented by Australia and 124 by the United States. We would like to bring up a point that we wanted to talk about the content for the SOO. That is the conference in Swaziland, where the reference was made to SOOs, and there was a communique from the minister regarding the provision of safety by private organizations, and this is our concern. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Niger. It's now the turn of New Zealand to take the floor. New Zealand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. New Zealand supports the concept of GASOS and indeed thinks it has a significant potential to add value to global aviation safety oversight. We support Working Paper 78-124 and the issues discussed in Working Paper 224. We are of the view that GASOS needs further development to address the issues identified in those papers, and accordingly are of the view that the working party or the working group should continue to develop the ideas and address those issues effectively and present those for consideration at the 40th Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, New Zealand. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The United Kingdom supports Working Paper 17 as presented by the Secretariat and Working Paper 188 presented by Bolivia. We also support the interventions made by Portugal, which has highlighted the valid issues raised by the papers presented by Australia and the United States, which the GASOS study group needs to address. We also strongly support the interventions made by Singapore and Spain. This is a voluntary framework being designed to support states in delivering improved safety oversight, which is completely aligned with the priorities we agreed yesterday afternoon in plenary. Given that, we mustn't lose sight of the potential benefits of this initiative, and we support the proposal that GASOS continue to be developed by the study group and presented in the appropriate way as expressed so well by Spain at the 40th Assembly in 2019. The UK is also very pleased to note the positive experience of Canada in the recent trial of GASOS assessment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, UK. I will now invite Rwanda to take the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. So 2 issues. I am happy to not be the only one in the nation in Committee B to have no mic. And South Africa has now made me very hungry for cake. Rwanda supports Working Paper 224 in its completeness, as this expresses some core and immediate concerns of Africa regarding GASOS. Rwanda also echoes the comments of its colleagues, State, South Africa, and AFCAC, and in regards to Working Paper 78. We implore that more work to be conducted prior to endorsement by the 40th Assembly in 2019. Of special note is the legal framework that must be established to avoid legal and political implications, as stated in the paper, regarding levels of accountability. It would be remiss of us to not implore our own directors of safety if we do not put the appropriate safeguards and criteria required when developing a system, such as GASOS, that should obtain its primary objective of assistance to our SOOs in the interest of safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Rwanda. I'll now call on Georgia to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Georgia supports Working Paper 17 as presented by Secretariat and overall GASOS concept as a very valuable one. And building up on the numerous previous speakers highlighting the legal provisions or legal clarity to be there, I would like to invite Legal Bureau of ICAO to come up with a solid legal framework or initiative which would enable the GASOS concept to be put forward for the next assembly in 2019 for endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. Venezuela, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Venezuela supports WP 17 from the Secretariat, and once again would like to say that we support 188 from Bolivia. The concept, the initial concept of GASOS is a good one that's been developed, and our state recognizes the comments that have been made about the cost-benefit analysis and the legal aspects that need to be developed that have been raised by various member states. And then there's the challenges. Namely, we need to have guidance for implementation of this concept and how it will be implemented in different parts of the world. we need to collect the experiences of the RSOOs and then have a detailed diagnosis of this to see how we can actually implement the GASOS in a feasible way. Venezuela supports what's been said by Mexico, Colombia, and other member states. We need to correct a small d so that we can say instead that it should be considered by the next assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Venezuela. I invite the United Republic of Tanzania to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania supports working paper number 224 presented by South Africa on behalf of AFCAC. We also support the paper presented by Australia and USA on the need for more work to be done on legal liability, transfer of risks, and the cost-benefits analysis. We believe that the objective of GASOS is to strengthen regional safety oversight organizations in order to assist states in implementation of the standard and recommended practices. Commercialization of safety oversight function is not supported. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United Republic of Tanzania. We still have a lot of states and international organizations wishing to speak. So let's take 3 more, then we'll break for lunch. We will call the states in this order: Germany, Sudan, and Italy. Germany, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I will be quick. So we fully support the GASOS concept. Certainly, there is still room for further work on GASOS, but the aim we should go for is endorsement at Assembly 40. After all, also after endorsement, the document can be further developed and we can reach further levels of maturity, that's for sure. So we are supportive to Working Paper 17 and to Working Paper 43. We have to keep the advantages of GASOS in focus and should not lose the momentum. Thank you.
Thank you, Germany. Sudan, you have the floor.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. مع تفهمنا.
Thank you, Chair. We are well aware of the importance of the general framework of the GASOS, but we support firmly the South African working paper that is presented on behalf of AFCAC. This paper should not be submitted to the 40th Assembly for adoption. This proposal requires sufficient time. It requires a maturity and a sufficient analysis, as well as discussions, in-depth ones, so that this working paper could be supported by the countries and member states. We also support Work Paper 78 presented by Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore, as well as the working paper presented by the United States, which is Working Paper 124. It is not an automatic mechanical process, and therefore I think that we should discuss certain points. For instance, air traffic is increasing continuously. On the other hand, some countries are incapable of meeting the obligations of safety. Concerning the first point, statistics provided by ICAO go against the fact, the actual facts. Air traffic has, in fact, doubled, while the level of EI, effective implementation, has increased, which shows that air traffic will never stop growing. In fact, it requires continuous improvement, but some countries are unable to meet the commitments. And so this also adds financial burdens as well as fees for safety oversight services. And so we refuse all aspects that are that involve commercialization of security and safety, oversight. We have seen experiences and experimentation with these aspects, with applying the law. Several points deal with juridical, legal aspects, financial aspects, and as well as confidentiality. These are concepts that are not clear in the system, and therefore we would like to see more time given to discussions and to joint efforts, and we do not wish this to be presented to the Assembly before that work is done. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudan. And I'm suggesting we take two more, Italy and AXA. We have eaten into our lunch time, just two more. Then after lunch, we could continue because I see Mali, Uganda, there was one more, Algeria, and others. Otherwise, we will sacrifice our lunch. And we need the strength to continue the discussions. I believe you agree with me. And we have to bake the cake and eat it well. So, Italy, you have the floor, followed by AXA. The rest, please bear with us. We will, Algeria, Uganda, Mali, others, you have the floor, definitely. That's why we are here. But we need to manage our time more effectively. Italy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lunch is coming, so I will be briefed on this subject. And many words have been said with respect to the improvements or in favor of what the GASOS will bring into our system. And of course, Italy is aware that more work has to be done on this subject, as already described in Working Paper 17 by the Secretariat, and that this work has to be done within ICAO again. But we also recognize that the GASOS invites to have a special role for the Regional Safety Oversight Organization, and it's something that Italy really supports, because we believe that this kind of organization has a special role in harmonizing the improvements in safety. So that is something that we believe is a strong element in favor of GASOS. So at the end, we think that the GASOS should be taken at the assembly, next assembly. And the way how it was said by Spain, it will depend on how the system will, how the controversial issues will be solved in the meantime. But again, we think that the system will be taken at the next assembly. So we support the Working Paper 17 in full and the Working Paper 188 by Bolivia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Italy. I'll call on AXA to intervene. AXA, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Central American Agency for Aviation Safety wishes to support Working Paper 17 presented by the Secretariat, and also Working Paper 188, which was presented by Bolivia on behalf of the states from the SAM region. As some of you know, AXA has just finished the first pilot project assessing the GASOS system in various specific functions that we've requested. This exercise has allowed us to gain an invaluable overview of the activities that have been carried out in the provision of safety oversight services for the Central American region over the space of almost 2 decades. And this has also allowed us to be able to define the areas where enhancements are needed. And it's precisely the results of this assessment which will allow the board of GASEC to continue with the support that they've already provided to us and bring the agency to the next level in terms of service importance, so that we can improve and continue to improve the sustained support for aviation in the Central American region. Given all this, we wish to support the working papers that we mentioned, and we invite other regional safety oversight organisations to join these pilot projects that the GASOS programme is currently carrying out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aksa. And that brings us, we're adjourned now for lunch. There's still several countries to contribute after lunch. And lunch today is generously being hosted by Leonardo and to be served in the foyer of the 4th floor. Please know that we'll reconvene at 13:55 prompt. And again, you are reminded not to smoke within the building. If you wish to smoke, please go outside the building, and let's reconvene at 1:55 p.m. Bon appetit.